Good evening. Welcome back to the ABNF podcast. I'm here with my buddy Nick. Nick, how are we doing? It's the second round of the playoffs. There's a lot to talk about, man. There's been so much since the last time we talked.
No, yeah, absolutely. I've been doing good overall. But the NBA playoffs, it's been nothing but surprises in the second round, man, to be honest with you. Upsets left and right, road teams winning like crazy. Just can't wait to dive into this, man, because if we filled out an NBA playoff bracket this year, I would be already in the shredder. So
Hey, brother, I'm
let's
in the same
let's
boat
get
as you.
going.
So if you actually have not listened to that episode, that was 2 episodes ago that we talked about the playoff predictions, where me and Nick decided that the Los Angeles Lakers were going to make the NBA Finals. Little did we know that Anthony Edwards would demolish them in 5 games. So we both are on a clown. I would say we're on clown status right now for that one.
And not only that, man, the Celtics, we had them winning the championship. And unfortunately, what happened, I
Yeah,
know we'll dive into the Celtics later in this episode, but um, looks like they're cooked. So,
yeah, man. Unfortunately. So before we begin, Nick, I just had a couple fun facts that I just want to fill you in on because these matchups have been great. I think we've seen a lot of great basketball. We've also seen a lot of stunners, heartbreakers for sure in this round. Here's
yeah,
a couple things. There have been 4 20-point leads that have been blown in this round, just in this round alone, which we also saw that in the first round, a lot of blown leads. Obviously in the NBA now, scoring is a premium and you can really get yourself out of big holes. Like back in the day, if you were up 25, you probably are going to win the game. But now 25, that might not actually be a lead that's there in the fourth quarter. We've seen it obviously with the Knicks twice against Boston. The home team in this round is 5-11, while the road team is 11-5. And if Indiana holds on today, Nick, to win this series, make that 5-12 for the home team. All
yeah,
the road teams in this round won game one. And if the Celtics lose tomorrow, they will be the sixth champion in a row that will not make it past the second round in subsequent year. I know you did mention that the Lakers are the only team out of those 6 champions that didn't make it past the first round.
yeah.
So, Nick, can I just ask you before we really break down these series, what has been your biggest shocker of this round?
Biggest shocker. It has to be the Celtics. They're the team to beat. Like, yeah, they weren't the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, but the majority of basketball fans, like, they're just going through the motions. They've been there, they've done it so many times. They made big playoff runs. They were just getting ready for the postseason. And no one saw the Knicks beating them because going into that series, the Knicks were 0-4 against Boston in the regular
Right.
season games, and they weren't just losses either. Like Boston just completely blew them out in those games.
Oh, 100%.
So
100%.
we were going into the series like, oh yeah, Celtics in five, we'll get the Knicks a game,
Yeah,
but it's literally first right now, which is wild. So I want to,
for
you
sure.
know, congratulate the Knicks so far, man. The job's not done, obviously, but
No.
man, Jalen Brunson is just the best closer in the game of basketball today, man. He's different.
No, man. I mean, that's why he won Clutch Player of the Year. There's a reason for that. Brunson has been by far, I think, one of the best playoff performers we've seen in the last 3 seasons, especially this year. He has been lights out every game, phenomenal. So there's 4 series, obviously, in this round. The Pacers versus Cavs is going to be the first one we're going to talk about today. Pacers are leading the series 3-1. Nick, you said that currently the Pacers were up 3 with about 9 minutes left in the game.
Now it's two with less than 9 minutes ago. It's
Shoot.
89-7 at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, Tyrese Halliburton's cooking. He's got 6 threes. He's 9 of 12 from the field.
Hey, my boy Hallie, shout out, shout out, shout
Pascal
out.
Siakam's doing this thing with 19 as well. But when it comes to the Cavs, they're down one despite Donovan Mitchell. He has 22 points, but he's 4 of 17 from the field, 0 from 7 from three. Max Strus is 0 of 8 from the field, 0 of 6, 0 of 5 from three, excuse me. And Evan Mobley is the one that's only been efficient, man. Darius Garland is 0 of 5 from three. He's 4 of 15 from the field. So the fact that the Cavs are only down 3 points when Donovan Mitchell and Garland, field goal percentage wise, ain't giving you anything, and Max Strus not giving you a single field goal. The fact that they're only down 3 points with 8 minutes to go in the game, they're actually in a good position, and they're at home, so hopefully they could find a way to close it out. But I just see Indiana winning this game tonight and just advancing to the conference finals for the second straight season. That's how I see it.
No, I respect that. I mean, I do have to apologize to Indiana. I know that I picked against them in the first round against the Bucks, and I think it's because again, injuries. And that's one thing with Indiana that we've seen the last 2 years is we've given Indiana kind of this asterisk because there were injuries in each round that they were facing. Obviously not against the Celtics, which they lost, but no Giannis last year. We felt like Giannis would be a key factor. That's why I picked them this year. Obviously, Indiana showed that they are a much better team. They have a lot of continuity together. They're also just a younger, faster, and better offensive team. And I think one of the other things, too, when it comes down to it, with Indiana, I just think that they're not Halliburton centric. Today is the first game that I've seen where they haven't had a float like a I'm like thinking of the word right now, but
Like a role player.
well, not just a role player, but I'm just thinking of even spread with like your scoring. So like it's not just one guy. Like today it's Halliburton. Halliburton is the guy today. He's been great. But in the other games in this series, like if I just told you in game one, Halliburton's going to have 22 and 13 assists. Nemhart had 23. Siakam had 17. Neesmith had 17. And Turner had 13. So, your starters in the first 2 games of this series combined for 92 and 90 points. So there was even scoring throughout all the starters. Where it wasn't just one guy that had to take over. Everybody was chipping in.
Yeah.
And one more thing, Nick, before I throw it back to you too. Something about this series that I don't think people are really taking into account too is the Cavs are shooting really bad from three in this series. Like even in their win, they shot bad. 23% in game one, 28% in game two, which is the game that they blew their 20-point lead in the second half. Yeah. And then in game three, which they did win by 22, they shot 29.7%, 14 of 47. So clearly, and actually, ironically, too, in game four, they actually did shoot 40% from three, which they got blown out at.
You know what they're shooting right now in this game? They're 5 of 25. So they're 20% from three.
And that's
their 5 made threes have been from guys that have coming off the bench. DeAndre Hunter's 2 for 2, and Ty Jerome is 2 of 2. So their entire starting lineup, only 1 3 has been made. And it's actually by Evan Mobley of all players, which who would have guessed?
I definitely would have guessed Evan Mobley, considering that he plays inside most of the time. Yeah. And I would also say, too, like just watching before we got on the pod, I watched the first half of this game. And one of the things, too, that I was actually just talking about with one of my friends yesterday was about Darius Garland and how important he is in terms of getting guys open for three. And when he's not on the floor, this offense looks very stagnant, where they're not getting ball movement. And while Donovan Mitchell is a great scorer, I don't necessarily think he's a point guard in the same way that Darius Garland can be. And when you don't have guys that can catch and shoot threes, like Max Strus is really their only catch and shoot guy, if you think about it. Like Hunter's solid, but I wouldn't really consider him a catch and shoot 3-point specialist. That's what they got. That's what they signed Strus for, to be that guy. And I think you said today he's 0 of 7 from three. So, when you're not shooting well from three and you're playing a team that shoots really well from three, like they shot 39% in game two, they shot 52.8% from three in game one. And I think that was the big tone setter with game one. I think a lot of people didn't give Indiana. I didn't give Indiana. Even if I had picked Indiana in round one, I know you did, but you had the Cavs. I think we all thought the Cavs were going to be better than what they were.
Absolutely.
So I got to ask you, do you feel like this team is fraudulent, or do you just think the Pacers are that good?
I think it's a mixture of both. I think the Cavs are very similar to that one year that the Atlanta Hawks had when they were the number one seed with like Jeff T, Joe Johnson, Josh Smith, and those guys. And then they ran into the four seed, and at that point it was the LeBron-led Cavs, and they smoked them in five. This Pacers team, man, is the most underrated team in basketball with the most underrated player in the game. I don't understand how the NBA, whoever made that vote that Tyrese Halliburton was the most overrated player in basketball. Apparently, a lot of people just don't watch basketball. How is Tyrese Halliburton overrated? Like,
Oh.
it drives me crazy, man. And the one thing about Indiana, especially in the playoffs, it's like
Mhm.
everybody's scoring has gone down significantly because obviously in the playoffs the game slows down more. You know, a lot of possessions go down to the end of the shot clock and stuff like that. But it seems like every game the Pacers are still scoring 100 plus points. They're like, look at Oklahoma. Look at these teams that were really, really good offensively this year. One of like the top scoring teams in the league. They're barely cracking 90 or they're in the 80s. Like look at last game of the Oklahoma Denver team, two of the best offenses, two of the top 10 best offenses in basketball. The end of the first quarter score was 17-8. Like that is
We will
insane.
talk about that too.
Like that is literally like it's literally nuts, man. And with Indiana, like I told you, Grim, like yeah, I did pick the Cavs to win this series. I
Oh
did.
yeah.
I had Cleveland six personally going into this, but after game one, I texted you, and I'm like, Indiana's gonna win the series. Not only because like I think it's 78% of teams that win game one
Mhm.
actually have win
Win
the
the
series.
series. Yeah.
Not just because of that, it's just the style of play. Cleveland has, besides game three, Indiana just had off shooting that. I just feel like this entire series, like the Cavs have not been able to slow this fast pace Pacers team down. And just like you said, like Tyrese Halliburton's their best player, but he doesn't need to score the ball to have an impact like 90% of star level players need. They need to
Right.
score to have an impact. Tyrese Halliburton, he could shoot only 8 shots in one game, and you could watch that basketball game and be like, he's the best player on the court.
Oh, 100%.
Now in
100%.
this series, obviously, like Donovan Mitchell, like he's literally been on an absolute tear, and I feel like what Indiana has done, what they brought into this series, like they done in the first round against Milwaukee. The first round against Milwaukee, Grim, they never doubled Giannis. They let him cook and they shut everyone else down. They're letting Donovan Mitchell be him.
Oh
They're
yeah.
not doubling him. Like they're letting him have these crazy scoring, crazy games. Like before last game where he got hurt, he didn't play in the second half. He was averaging 42 points per game in this series.
I could
And
read them off. Yeah. Oh yeah, man. He had 33 in game 1, 48 in game 2,
yeah,
43 in game 3. I mean, the thing is that it's kind of crazy too because if I told you that a team had 70 points in the paint, do you think they win that game?
absolutely 100%.
They had that in game 1 and they still lost by 9. So, I think also too the Pacers bench, like, and I texted this about you. I texted this to you too. I said the Pacers don't have name brand guys, but they work. Like the guys on their bench is Obi Toppin, TJ McConnell, Benedict Mathurin. They're playing Thomas Bryant today. Because I did notice that he had a little bit more uptick in his minutes today.
Yeah.
But all those guys fit their system very well. And Rick Carlisle is also a really good coach. I know we talked about that too. You know, he's a champion coach. He's been in these situations before. He's coached a lot of great players. So I would say, in terms of, I also just think that Rick Carlisle has outcoached Kenny Atkinson in the series too. I think that adjustments have definitely been made. Even with, like you said, Mitchell, they're going to let him score.
Yeah.
Obviously, game 2, and again, this is where this Indiana, we got to start giving them a little more respect. I understand that there were 3 starters out in game 2 with Hunter, with Mobley, and Garland. And I know Garland missed the first 2 games of this series. And once he came back in game 3, it looked like, okay, the Cavs are going to take over. This series is done. They'll win in 6, right? I think that game 4 really showed how they were able to take what happened in that game
Yeah.
and really just give it to them. Like being up 41 with the Cavs fully healthy, they are really the most underrated team.
Yeah.
Like you
Like,
texted me, bro. I was like, no, there's just no way. There's just no way that they're up like that much. I was just blown away. I'm like, bro, what happened?
yeah. And the thing is too, like with playoff series and stuff, man, sometimes it just takes one
Right.
play to literally turn a series upside down. I know the Pacers were up 1-0 at that point.
Hmm.
But game two, the Cavs had a 20-point lead in the second half, man. Donovan Mitchell had an insane game. Jared Allen had 22 and 12. Max Strus gave them 5 threes,
Hmm.
scored 23 points. Like, I get that they only shot 28% from three in that game, but like when you're getting scoring contributions, obviously not only from Donovan Mitchell, but you have two other players, especially with Darius Garland being out, Evan Mobley, DeAndre Hunter, you have Jared Allen, Max Strus, they were doing their thing. They're putting up big numbers and stuff. But what happened was Tyrese Halliburton misses a free throw. You got to get the rebound.
You got to
There's
box
no
out.
excuse to get the guy that shot the free throw, ends up getting the rebound, brings the ball back up to the top of the key,
Hmm.
hits a dagger. That's what lost Cleveland the series,
It's
because it
very,
had
it,
1-1.
yeah,
And I just think like they would have had a lot more. And that's the thing too. Cleveland won game 3 too. They blew out Indiana.
yeah.
Now, Indiana probably would have came out with more, you know, absurdness and stuff like that. Who, you never know what would have happened in a game 3, but being 1-1 instead of being down 0-2 and having to have that game 3, who knows what could have happened. But man, just like you said, man, like Indiana is, dude, they're gonna be a tough out, man. Like I told you
I
this,
I think it could be tough.
any team, if nobody can stop this pace. The way that they play, the way the continuity is. Nobody cares who leads the team in scoring that night. They don't care about their stats. They care about wins. And when you see that, like, that team is dangerous, man, and that team could beat anybody.
And
I
that
would
that
not
is,
be
yeah.
surprised if Indiana makes the NBA Finals. It
Well,
would not surprise me.
I would be in. Here's the thing too, because they made the conference finals last year. We were kind of like, okay, you know, Indiana really had a season that we didn't expect. There was no expectations. They trade for Siakam. Halliburton was having a great all-star level season. We really thought that he was going to take that like step forward. Fell off at the end of the year. They still go on this huge run in the playoffs. They lose Halliburton in the East Conference Finals, which I think we forget about as well. But to think this year, no expectations again. We really thought it was going to be Boston repeat. The fact that Indiana has come in, they've said, hey, we understand that everybody's going to doubt us because we just don't have the most attractive looking team
Yeah.
in terms of name, but we're going to compete with you every night. I mean, Nick, when we look at their offensive rating, and for those who don't know what that means is it tracks your points per 100 possessions, right? The Cavs in the playoffs are ranked first at 125.7. Do you know who's in second?
Indiana.
118. So that means that every 100 possessions, they're scoring about 118.7 points. So like 119, right? The fact that, again, you're going to let Mitchell do what he wants to do, nobody else is going to score. The thing with Indiana, like you said, they don't care who scores. I mean, Miles
Yeah.
Turner was like the first, I think, in game four, like, because he only played like 21 minutes, he had like 21, 7 and 7. It was like the fastest to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane, but yeah, man. Actually looking at the score right now, Nick, with 2:38 left, the Pacers are up by 7, 104-97. Halliburton has 29 tonight with 8 assists and 5 rebounds. And Pascal Siakam being his co-star at 21, 7 and 5. So we might really be having to have this conversation about Indiana being in the NBA Finals possibly. But
Yeah.
let's talk about that other Eastern Conference Final series because this is the one, Nick, where we're going to look back on, our previous takes and I think we really got this wrong.
Yeah.
So do you want to take it away with where we went wrong?
Oh yeah, I can absolutely start it. Going back to the off season, right? When the
Mhm.
Knicks made these moves, they traded for Cat, they traded for Bridges, they got Ananobi. What do we say how this team was built? We said this team was built. They're building this team to be able to play the Celtics.
Right.
they have all these defensive guys and stuff like that, but we both said like there still isn't enough shooting on this team. You know, Boston fully loaded. No one's gonna beat them in the 7-game series, this and that, right? But like, but man, I'm shocked. And
Mhm.
I'm shocked because obviously the Celtics, what did we say? You know, they live or die by the three, right? So
Right.
that they lose, it's either because they get so bored because they're blowing out a team so much and they just play lackadaisical, or they literally just miss a shit ton of threes that game and they have horrible shooting nights. And guess what happened? The first two games, they're up 20 plus points in the third quarter in the second half. Game one, they shoot 15 of 60 from three. Grim, they missed 45 threes. There's teams even in the playoffs that they can't even get 45 3-point attempts off.
We definitely know Denver's not shooting
Okay.
45 threes for
You
sure.
know,
For sure.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like the second game was literally the repeat of game one.
Mhm.
Literally the repeat of it. You know, and
100%.
I can't believe they lost both games at home. That shocked the shit out of me. You know, Jalen Brunson, he's just special, man, especially in the fourth quarter. Do you know, since I actually pulled this stat up, which is really, really interesting.
Mhm.
Uh, so he's got the most fourth quarter points, not only in the series, but he's averaging the most fourth quarter points since 1997. He's averaging over 10 points per game in the fourth quarter alone.
Brunson has literally been the best player in the playoffs in terms of just like his clutch.
Yeah.
Like I would put him up there. Like I think it's between Ant and like Brunson right now for like the like best player in the playoffs, but I would give it to Brunson. Like just
Yeah.
in terms because I know Ant's had kind of a couple stinkers. So I would say Brunson has been the most consistent player in the playoffs. And just like you said, Nick, living and dying by the three is probably the worst way to play basketball because it's just we have gone way too far into analytics saying that it's a more efficient shot for you to take and
Yeah.
you're going to score more points because if you hit a couple, okay, you know, your total goes up exponentially higher than if you only hit twos.
Yeah.
Here's the funny part. When you shoot 37 threes in the second half and you allow the Knicks to get back in this game because they go on a 29 run, I understand that sometimes these are anomaly things, but when it happens two times in a row, and I'm going to just say like a little bit of it is just bad. It's just bad luck, you know?
Yeah.
And a little bit of it is just decision making, you know, making poor decisions. Mikal Bridges went off in the second game. I'll give him that. In the fourth quarter, he scored. He like scored almost all his points. I think 11 of his 14 in the second half all came in the
Yeah.
fourth quarter, right? And just like you said, these trades that they made in the offseason were to beat one team specifically. It was to beat the Boston Celtics. When you have a guy like Mikal Bridges who can guard the best player on the other team because he's your best perimeter defender, you see blocks like that in game two. Now, one thing I do want to call out that I don't think people are giving enough attention to is Kristaps Porzingis is not playing a lot because he has an unknown respiratory illness they do not disclose about. It's been keeping him off the floor for large portions of the game. And for somebody who just went through like pneumonia myself and recovered from that, it's tough. It is tough. Like you don't feel great. And he only plays an average of 17 and a half minutes in this series. You don't have a big guy because Al Horford is 6'9" and he's old.
Yeah.
And I think that's been a huge issue for where Boston isn't getting those stops like they did last year because we're not seeing Porzingis playing. Now, obviously, when they played Orlando, it was a little bit of a different story because that team's just not good enough to beat them. They can give them trouble, but they're just not good enough.
Yeah.
Do you think right now, let's say that the roles were reversed, right? Let's say that they end up securing those first two games. And then they lose last night. Let's say they were up 3-0 because they won convincingly in game 3.
Yeah.
And unfortunately Tatum tore his Achilles last night.
Yeah.
They're up 3-1. Do you think that they blow that series because they're missing Tatum? Do you think they close it out? Because I think that right now because they have no Porzingis really.
Yeah.
And I would say that Drew Holiday has struggled to guard Jalen Brunson in this series.
Yeah.
Do you think that possibly that could have been a 3-1 like comeback?
It's definitely possible. It really is. But the one player, I got to be honest with you, man, Jaylen Brown, this is his moment now. And what I
Oh
mean by
yeah.
that is I understand that he won he won finals MVP last year. I totally understand that. But man, you're getting paid over 300 plus $1 million. Okay. And I'm going to read you this list. Okay. So hear me out here. This is the most fourth quarter points scored in the series by both teams combined. So Brunson's first with 36.
Mhm.
Mikal Bridges has 26 points in the fourth quarter. He's second. Tatum was third with 22. He had 11 of them in the fourth before the torn Achilles. Payne Pritchard has 18 fourth quarter points. OG Anunoby with 17. Cat with 15. You're a $300 million supposed athlete. How are you not on that list? How are you not on that list? And not only that, you're only averaging 20 and a half points per game really in this series. You know, I'm sorry, man. I understand Tatum is the star and you're supposed to be the so-called co-star, but I don't see none of the Knicks players around Jalen Brunson having issues.
No.
Mikal Bridges is playing pretty well. Cat's playing very well. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
Jaylen Brown, man, what have you been doing? And not only that, Drew Holiday's been an absolute no-show. Al Horford really hasn't given you anything, to be honest with you. But what's going to be very, very interesting is when Boston unfortunately loses this series, they're
Mhm.
not going to get 3 games in a row against New York without
No.
Tatum.
No.
Now they might win the home game they just might give so much effort just to win that game so they don't
Right.
go into the offseason going 0-3 in that round at home. That'd be really,
Oh yeah.
really bad
Yeah.
on that part. But it's new ownership in Boston now. They're way over the cap. I'm telling you right now, this offseason, now with Tatum probably going to be out all of next season just because of how late the injury occurred with the torn
Mhm.
Achilles. I know he's young and a lot of people might recover at different rates and stuff like that, but let me tell you this, man. Kristaps Porzingis has one more year left on his deal. They're over the cap. I think he's going to be gone. Al Horford's going to retire. I
Yep.
think he's going to be gone. There's even possible chances because I think they're going to hold on to Derek White. So I think Drew Holiday is going to be on the move. So next year, you're looking at a team of Jaylen Brown and Derek White. This team's going to look completely different next year on paper.
Yeah. I'm gonna say this right
Their
now.
chance.
I yeah. I would definitely tell you right now. I agree with everything you just said there. I do think that Boston will probably blow up a lot of their team that we see right now. Also, because Jason Tatum is going to probably be out for a majority of next season. So next year is going to probably just be a year where it's like if they win enough games to make the playoffs, great, but they're not going to win it all. Another thing too, Nick, it's funny how quickly things can change. When we talked about this team when they won last year, we are like, wow, they have this great window. Like they have the next 2 to 3 years. They just retained all their guys. They actually got better. They signed, you know, they got other pieces to come in and play with this team. And it just seems like they're not going to lose. Like they could actually like repeat this year because of how good they have in their wing players, their guards. Al Horford was playing out of his mind as a 37-year-old. Kristaps Porzingis looked great last year in the finals when he came back from the injury. So we really thought like this team really had a chance. And I just think it's like we say this every time when somebody wins the championship. It just seems like the next 2 to 3 years they have the opportunity to keep winning. Like before Boston, we were saying the same thing about Denver. The difference with that situation is more because of, again, cap space reasons and losing
Yep.
key players has consistently been an issue with the last couple of championship teams. It's either an injury that's happened. We saw that with Milwaukee. There's an argument they could have repeated that year. I think they would have beaten that Warriors team. I thought they were really good that year. And then you see it with obviously with Denver, they blow game 7 last year at home. And then this year, obviously with Tatum, tearing his Achilles on a basically on a turnover with OG dunking on the other end. It just feels like it just kind of summarizes the series for Boston. It's just like every unfortunate thing that could have happened to them did happen. And like you said, new ownership, I don't think they're going to want to pay all this because the product on the floor is not going to deliver a championship right now. And we don't even know we don't know how long it's going to take Tatum to recover. And you already have Jaylen Brown under contract, Jason Tatum. And they also did give a huge extension to Drew Holiday, if
Yeah.
you remember.
Yep.
So they have a lot of money already on their book, and Peyton Pritchard's going to probably want to get paid too very soon.
100%.
So, Nick, before
Someone's gonna
we,
pay him.
yeah,
Someone's definitely gonna pay. 100%.
no, for sure. And I just want to just say one more thing and ask you this question too. So we know that likely this probably ends in six. I do have a feeling that Boston could win tomorrow, just morally, like a moral victory for themselves. Do you feel like Tom Thibodeau is going to end up running this team into the ground with how many minutes he plays his guys? Like he's basically playing a 7-man rotation, and it's really six. They have Miles McBride come in. Like when I look at the minutes that these guys are averaging, Mikal Bridges is averaging 44 in this series. OG's averaging almost 39. Jalen Brunson's averaging 40. Josh Hart's at like 38. Cat, ironically, out of all the starting five, is actually averaging only 35 minutes. And that's also because Mitchell Robinson has been coming in. He's getting about 22 minutes. And then you got Miles McBride like 18. And there's nobody else, like minimal, like on garbage time minutes. So do you feel
No,
like that could be the downfall of them?
it could potentially. I mean, you know how Thibodeau is, man. We saw when he
Oh,
was
we definitely
to the
saw that.
Bulls, how he ran Luol Dane to the ground, Joakim Noah to the ground. Can't believe, you know what? I'm not even gonna bring up the Derrick Rose
We don't
injury
have
that
to.
happened.
We've had too much pain as Bulls fans. These
Yeah,
yeah.
so I'm not gonna get into that, but we've seen it, obviously. And
Mhm.
the good thing is with like their main guys are typically like they're not really really young, but they're not really like old. Like a lot of their guys on the Knicks, if you really think about it, like
In their
they're like
prime.
in the prime in their careers.
Mhm.
Like Jalen Brunson is definitely in his prime.
Oh yeah.
Cat is definitely in his prime for sure. You know what I mean? Mikal Bridge is definitely is young prime of his career. You know,
Mhm.
stuff like that. So I mean, I think he might have to play at least another player, especially when you're playing against a potentially Indiana did win tonight, by the way. So Indiana advanced to the conference finals. Congratulations to Indiana. So that's going to probably be, obviously that'll be their opponent as long as they don't choke 3 straight games against a Tatum less Celtics team. But when you're playing against a team like Indiana, if you're only playing 7 guys, you're eventually going to crack.
That's my biggest fear with that series, man. Like we'll definitely have a preview to talk about it, but dude,
Especially
I,
especially the bench points. Indiana's got a bench. They play 9-10 deep. Rick Carlisle has a deep team, man. And if I have to do an early preview right now, I'm going Indiana. I think Indiana's gonna take out New York, if that's what it's gonna be.
I think this is going to be a close series. I think it would go 6 or 7, and the only reason I say that is because this is going to be the best wing defenders we've seen Indiana play against.
Yeah.
Because the thing was, OG was hurt for most of that series last year, and they didn't have Mikal Bridges.
Yeah.
But I do think the lack of rim defense and also just guys being gassed at the end of the game can be a huge like reason why Indiana sneaks away with a game in New York because of things like that. But we'll also have to see what happens. Um, I I I think it could go either way. If I had to like what you just did, I mean, I'm wearing Indiana, so I can't. I'm not going to go against them. I would
Hey,
probably though say it would probably have to go 6 or 7 for Indiana to win. I don't think they would like win in 5 like they just did to Cleveland. Like I think New York matches up well against them in terms of like perimeter defenders, but they also just lack like big that can really protect the rim. So I think that Indiana will have a easy time sometimes with getting to the rim on Cat.
yeah. I think what makes it different, I think the Knicks actually have like the better like top tier talent than
Right.
Indiana, of course. I just think the thing with New York is if they could keep shooting the three pretty decently, man, they could definitely be in the end. They could definitely go to the final stuff because they
Mhm.
just much of a talented roster and stuff like that. But man, yeah, we'll see what happens, man. You know, obviously we're shocked what has occurred with Boston. Hopefully a speedy recovery for,
No,
you know,
prayers up for Tatum, bro.
so hopefully he gets back out there. Maybe he might come back if they make the playoffs. You know,
We'll see.
we're gonna really find out next season how good Jalen Brown really is. We're gonna find out because
I
now he's gonna
mean,
be number one on a team for an entire season. We're gonna find out how good he really is.
For sure, man. And we're definitely going to also see like what does Brad Stevens do to retool this team?
Yeah.
And how long is that going to take for them to be back to that level? Because right now you have Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum that are not too old. Like they're still young enough where I think that their window for competing is not necessarily closed yet. But how do you retool this team, especially with the way that the second apron is now, the cap space situation, and just the way that the collective bargaining agreement really stops you from creating these like really good super teams. So I'm very curious to see what they're going to do. But when we get back for the second half of this episode, we're going to talk about the two Western Conference matchups. Obviously, we have a lot to talk about with that Denver OKC series because I know your boy SGA, bro, he is still having his numbers. But I do think that there are some things that OKC is really concerning me with. And then we'll also talk about the Wolves and Warriors. So stay tuned. We'll be back real quick. Welcome back to the second half of the episode, guys. We appreciate you guys listening to the podcast. And before we begin, if you have not, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, share for more great content from me and Nick. It always means a lot when you guys give us your feedback too. So let us know what you guys are thinking about the playoffs. Anything that we can be talking about too. So Nick, to get back to it, let's talk about the Nuggets and Thunder because I think this is a team that ever since we started the pod, we've talked about OKC. We
Mhm.
said they're a young, upcoming team. They're going to be dangerous in the West for years to come. This is the year they really need to show that what we said back then is true.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I don't feel like I have been convinced yet based on what has happened in this Denver series. So I'm going to let you go first. What have you thought so far? Things that you're disappointed with OKC, things that I guess still give you hope. And what do you think is the outcome of this series?
Yeah, so I think with Oklahoma, like Shea's pretty much been doing his thing. He's averaging 27.6 points per game, 6.6 assists, 5.8 rebounds per game, just in the postseason in general. But what I'm really disappointed, in, especially in this round alone, is the lack of contributions from everyone else besides SGA, man. Like there's certain games Jalen Williams just doesn't have it. Chet Holmgren, it's not really given that much scoring contributions this entire playoffs, to be honest with you. They are getting some contributions from certain bench players and stuff like that. I just feel like it's just been SGA's been literally the only consistent option that they have this entire playoff so far. It's just Jalen Williams, like we're like, oh my God, like he's one of the second best players that you can have on a team. And I just haven't seen it in the postseason from him, to be honest with you. And when it comes to just like the team itself, when you look at these games, obviously they had the blowout victory. They won 149 to 106 against Denver game two. But, game one, they had a lead. They blew it. Game three, they lost in overtime. They had a 3-point lead with under a minute to go. They blew it. And even when they won game four, they won that low scoring game, 92-87, but Denver was down double digits in the third quarter. They came back and took the lead. So Oklahoma's been giving up leads, and that's not Oklahoma, man. They had the best point differential, I think, in NBA history this regular season, if I remember correctly. I think they were winning by an average of like 13. It was some crazy number, man. They just have not looked like the same team, man. And I think Denver's doing a terrific job. And what's wild to me is like they're tied in the series with Jokic, especially the last few games. He actually has not played nowhere near to his standard,
Yeah, dude,
especially
he
from
looks
an
tired.
efficiency.
He looks
He
tired.
looks exhausted out there. And despite all the drama with the Nuggets, with Mike Malone being fired 4 games before the playoffs, like
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that, you would have thought that, oh, like this team is they're just gonna collapse in the playoffs. There's too much drama going on. But man, they they look like they belong right now, man. They're playing Oklahoma really, really tough, man. And I don't know who's gonna win the series, to be honest with you. I'm just gonna say Oklahoma just because they're my team. They're
Mm-hmm.
my second favorite team outside the Bulls. And I've seen them have pretty good leads in every game. They've
Yeah,
had double digit leads in literally every single game in the series. So how could I not pick them? But at the same
I feel
time,
you.
it's like the games do get tight, man. When it's a tie game with 3 minutes to go in the game, like it just seems like the Nuggets are better in those situations than Oklahoma, which scares me, man. Because I won't be surprised if Denver wins the series, but I I don't know, Grim. This isn't the Oklahoma City team that I know for what I've seen in this series.
It's funny to think about it now, but some of the things we did say of why we thought that the Lakers would beat them in the Western Conference Finals was because of that lack of experience, where
Mm-hmm.
it just seems like it's coming to bite them again because it did
Yeah.
again last year, and you're just seeing it again. I think one of the biggest things that I've noticed was game one. I get that they were up 20. They blew that lead. The
Yeah.
thing was is that I never felt like Denver really could actually get back into the game. Every time I was watching where Denver was trying to chip into their lead, I
Yeah.
would watch Denver miss. OKC gets the rebound, pushes it up the floor, hits a three. They get another stop on the other end. They push it back up, another corner three. They're back up like double digits, right? Every time it just felt like Denver really was never going to get back in the game. And then they started playing really sloppy. And because of the bad fouls that they were committing and just sending Denver to the free throw line, like Jokic
Yeah.
is not going to miss, right? You just saw Mark Dagnall play so conservative. Like I felt like I was watching the Jacksonville Jaguars against the Patriots in the AFC Championship game when they were just trying to keep the ball away from Brady and it just shot themselves in the foot. That is literally how I felt about this game because the fact that you started playing a foul game, why are you fouling with 11 seconds? Jokic is on the sideline. He's not even in the game.
Yeah.
You got to stop. You don't trust these guys? Like you said, best point differential in the NBA. You
Yeah.
have guys like Alex Caruso, Cason Wallace, Lou Dort. SJ is a good two-way player. Are you that scared of Denver? You think they're going to hit a three? A team who has notoriously this year been called out for their lack of three-point shooting. Michael
Yeah.
Porter Jr., who's on one shoulder. And the funniest thing is, the thing that they feared is what ended up costing them the game.
Yeah.
Aaron Gordon hits a three with what, like 2 seconds left in the game because they really were like, you know what? We're going to play the foul game. Chet Holmgren misses two key free throws. And this is the reason why we're talking about the Thunder being tied with the Nuggets right now.
Yep.
And I just felt like game two, all right, they're back on track. Like they dominated them from start to finish, right?
Yeah.
Game three happens. Again, I'm going to give Denver credit. Championship team. They have mostly the same core outside of Westbrook and Strother because I know he was a rookie last year, but everybody
Yeah.
else was on
Christian
that
Braun
team when they
was
won.
there. Right? Was Braun on the team when they won the champ? Oh, that
Yeah,
was his rookie.
that
Never
was his
mind.
rookie
That was
year. I believe him and Payne Watson were both like rookies that
okay.
year. I
Yeah.
believe both of them were because I know Strother was their rookie last year that they got, but it's just like Denver has championship pedigree, and I understand that
Yeah.
they are going to stay in these games because they are a good team. They just have no depth.
Yeah.
But you can't be losing and blowing another lead to this team. So I agree with you though. Like you said, SGA has been really the only guy that's been consistent for them. I would also say Alex Caruso has been one of the key guys, and especially in that game four when he was huge. Like I think without what he was doing in game four, if he doesn't even give those, like he hit a couple threes, but also he's their best perimeter defender when it comes
Yeah.
to like getting stops. Because it always feels like he will always get a hand on the ball and get steals like at key times, and that was a big reason why they ended up getting back the lead in that game and then holding on to it.
Yeah.
But Nick, how do you feel about like Denver? Because I agree with you. I think OKC should win this series. You mentioned something with Jokic, and it was about how he looks really tired. He looks gassed. He's just not. He's shot 33% in the last three games.
Yeah.
So, do you think that Denver has just run out of gas at this point, and they're going to probably lose the next two games? Do you think this could go seven?
I think it is gonna go.
You think it's gonna go
7.
seven? Okay.
It's gonna go 3. I think man, like I said, in a game 7, you never know what can happen, obviously. You know what I mean? And obviously Denver has the experience on their side, man. They've been in these situations before. I even last season, I know that they blew a 20-point lead in a game 7 and
That's
choked
true.
at home against Minnesota. So like, in the second round too. So like
That's
Denver,
true.
yeah, like it's like they've been around, man. And obviously Oklahoma, they really, yeah, they made the playoffs last year. They made the second round last year, and they lost to, I think, Dallas in what was that, 5 or 6 games? I know they didn't go
They
to
lost in
seven.
six, I believe. I think it was.
Six.
I want to say it was six.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So like they're just really really young. They got their main young core that ran it back pretty much. They try to add some guys here and there like Alex Caruso. They try to bring some championship experience and stuff. It was a solid move on their part that they get a guy like that, I guess, because Josh Giddey unfortunately just wasn't going to fit with Oklahoma because SGA was just going to have the ball in his hands
Right.
and stuff. Which obviously we're happy for Josh Giddey. He actually had a surprising good year for the Bulls, so we're happy to have him. But yeah, man, I just can Michael Porter Jr. for Denver, can he do something? Like, can he be somewhat of a factor somehow? Can Aaron Gordon still shoot threes at a high clip that he's been all year? And if they're gonna if Oklahoma's just gonna continue to leave Russell Westbrook open, is he still not gonna hesitate and let that thing fly, man? Because Russell Westbrook has actually hit some big threes in the playoffs so far this year for
Yeah.
Denver as well.
I was gonna say,
Christian
dude.
Paul, too. I think it's more of the role players, like because just
Hmm.
like we mentioned, like Nikola Jokic is he's gassed. He's completely tired. He
Oh
needs
yeah.
help, not only for Murray to be in the second option, but those guys like Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., Christian Braun could two of those three give you 15 plus points, and also could Russell Westbrook just be that energy bunny that can match Caruso's energy on the floor? That's just what it really comes down to, in my opinion. And if
Well,
Denver could do that, I would not be surprised if they won the series over Oklahoma. I would not be shocked.
I mean, I think one of the problems for me why I can't see Denver winning this series is because one, Michael Porter Jr. is playing on one shoulder because I know he's got that shoulder injury, which he really shouldn't be playing, but he has to because they really don't have anybody else.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is the problem even with Michael Malone. Like, I mean, it's crazy to say this, but I felt like even in the regular season, they were really only playing seven guys, really. Like, they don't really have a bench. And I mean, Jokic is playing an absurd amount of minutes. I mean, he's staying in the game for most of the part. I mean, the game that they won in overtime, in game 3, Jamal Murray played almost every single minute of that game. You know, I mean, yeah, sure. Like he was great. 27 points in that game, in OT. But there comes a time where it's like I'm just like, we've already seen this with the first round where the Lakers played 5 guys all of the second half, and it was bad. And it just feels like the difference here is you have Jokic, and Jokic is the best player in the league, right? I just think that there's too much fatigue that's going to continue to show that I do think that OKC will win this series. I do think Denver can still steal another game. I just don't, like you said, Jalen Williams has not really shown up as a second option. I need to see Chet Holmgren stop shooting so many threes. Why are you chucking threes, my guy? I understand you're skinny, bro, but try to take it to the hole once or twice. Like, my God,
Yeah.
like if I was as
You
tall
are.
as you, bro, I know, and I have friends that have made fun of me. If I was as tall as you, I would go in the rim and I'd never miss a layup. It's like, bro, come on. But if I was 7 feet tall and I have that lane, I'm gonna try at
Yeah.
least get to the bucket a couple times because there's no way you're not like doing strength and conditioning. Like, I understand Jokic is a strong guy and you're not gonna finish over him every time, but they have to attack Jokic. In order for you to win, you have to get that guy in foul trouble because the game that they got him in foul trouble is the game they won by 43 points. So
Yeah.
you have to attack Jokic. I think another thing too, with OKC is they play way too conservative sometimes in this series where it's like, are you really scared that Denver's gonna, come back? Like, I felt like not necessarily in game four. It felt like more like actually they were trying to get the lead back through the majority of game four. And then just at the end, it just felt like, can you hold this lead? Because it just doesn't really feel like you guys are like able to get stops. And I mean, granted, like Aaron Gordon has been probably the second best player for the Nuggets and probably their most clutch player of the whole playoffs. But I just want to see like what's gonna, like I want to know, what is OKC going to do in a pivotal game? Like if it does go to game seven, are they going to choke under pressure?
Yeah.
Because I can like you said, it's possible Denver could win this series just because of how poorly others have performed outside of SGA. And even SGA, like to his standards, like his field goal percentage in the last game was really bad. It was his free throws that really kind of made up for the points. So that's my other question. Will Jalen Williams step up? Because he needs to. Because even if let's say they make it past this round, they're going to play Minnesota most likely. How are you going to stop Minnesota? Because Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards have been a great 1-2 combo for these playoffs.
Absolutely.
Like what are you going to counter with that? Because they got guys that can guard on the perimeter too. Like this isn't going to be Denver. This is going to be a team that has way more depth and a lot more energy.
Yep.
So that would be my fear too. Is like OKC, you might still lose in the conference finals. Maybe not to the team we thought you'd lose to, but you're going to lose to a team.
The way that they're playing, they're not getting to the finals. The way that
Like
they're playing right now. Yeah. Especially if especially a team like Minnesota, the way that they've been playing. And Minnesota, man, it's just they have been unbelievable defensively so far in the postseason. Just unbelievable, man.
hey man, let's just give
It's
a round of applause to Julius Randle. Thank you for showing up for the playoffs for the first time in your career, man. I really appreciate what you're doing, bro.
maybe it was just too much pressure in New York, man.
Hey
You know what I
man,
mean?
hey, those brights were a little too light, like Jared Allen said.
100%. Yeah. Just like, dude, sometimes in all sports, man, a player just might need to change the scenery, man.
100%. It does
That's all.
it does happen. Like we've seen
Yeah.
it in the NBA multiple times. Guys move from one situation to another. I mean, Andrew Wiggins. I think when he was in Golden State, like those first couple years in Golden State, like he really showed like, hey, I'm a good role player and like I can definitely be part of a championship team because we never saw that in Minnesota. But let's talk about this
Yeah.
series. The
100%.
Warriors and
It's
Wolves series. Wolves are up 3-1 in this series. Obviously, Steph Curry has been out since game two. So, Nick, how are we feeling about Minnesota, man? Because, you know, I just kind of feel like the Warriors are basically out of gas, just like Denver. But they're also missing their best player. So,
yeah.
how are we feeling about Minnesota? Do you think they'll close it out at home tomorrow?
Yes, I think Minnesota's going to close it out. Golden State, they had two, tough games at home. They could have won either or of those games, but especially game three, Jimmy Butler had a great game. No, they can't win it with him having a great game. And then game four, obviously last night, look at the 17-0 run that Minnesota went on. They were what were they down like 15 points in the third quarter or something like that?
Yeah, no,
Like
minute.
I
Yeah.
was, but it was something like that. And you know, just everybody from Minnesota, man, not only from a defensive standpoint, they're getting contributions from everybody in some facet of the game. Julius Randle's playing a hell of a playoffs this year. He's averaging over 25 a game just in the series alone. He just had 31 points in game four. You know what I mean? Jaden McDaniels is one of the best on ball defenders in basketball, and he's even doing all the little things, man. Grabbing 13 rebounds, for his position that's very impressive, obviously, stuff like that too. And I just think their coach, man, they're coached very, very, very well, man. And Minnesota, man, they're hungry, man. They were in this position last year. They made it all the way to the conference finals, where it seemed like they were the favorite because a lot of people thought they were going to beat Dallas, and then obviously
Mhm.
I think the lack of experience caught up to them. I just think it's very ironic that they traded Cap. The Knicks in Minnesota made that trade, and we said it didn't make sense for either team. But then it's very ironic that both teams are going to make the conference finals. Both teams are up 3-1 right now. Obviously Golden State doesn't have Steph, and obviously now Boston doesn't have, Tatum and such. But Minnesota, man, I
Yeah.
give credit to them, man. A lot of people said Lakers in 5. Shannon Sharp said Lakers in 5.
What was it?
And
UFC, KFC, OKC. Lakers in 5.
and it ended up being, Minnesota in 5. And what I love too, man, about this Minnesota team, man, everybody's willing to do the dirty work. Even their star player, Anthony Edwards, man, he's out there giving you 30 plus a night pretty much. Wow. Going over screens and guarding the best opposing guard on the opposing team. Like, he's guarding Jimmy Butler and he's still putting in work offensively. Anthony Edwards kind of like everyone talks about like, oh, he's got this mentality of like, the Dwayne Wade, the Kobe Bryant, like that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But like Anthony Edwards, I know it's not really like his position. He seriously reminds me of prime Kawhi Leonard, but with more athleticism than him. And what I mean by that is Kawhi Leonard, both sides of the ball in his prime, probably you could argue he was the best two-way player in the game. Offensively, he was giving you 25 plus points per night, and he was in the defensive player of the year conversation every year. I think one year Anthony Edwards might get in that conversation. He really takes his defense very, very seriously and stuff like that, but especially the way Anthony Edwards has been able to shoot the three this year. I think it's actually very interesting. He led the league, I think, in most 3-point shots.
He made the most threes in the NBA this year.
Made the most threes. So it's like with his athleticism and how fast he is, if he continues to make threes like that, how do you guard him? How do you game plan? You literally can't.
You cannot. That's an interesting comparison too, because I would not necessarily think of Kawhi Leonard when I think of Ant Edwards. I think like athletically and like in terms of just his like posterizing of players reminds me so much of Vince Carter, right? Like in terms of just his bounce and just like the nastiest. I mean, like, dude, he literally posterized Kevon Looney, and Looney literally tried to get out of the way. He's like, I don't know why I tried to challenge this play, but he's put a body on like multiple guys in the playoffs already. And but like you said, like his defense is like he's an underrated defender. Like we don't talk about Anthony Edwards' defense. We always talk about his offense and his dunks. But I like the Kawhi comparison. I would say their games are a bit different in terms of like offensively, but like if you're talking about like in terms of like being a good wing defender, I get where the comparison comes.
Yeah, it's just like having that mentality of like, like I'm gonna guard your best player. I'm gonna try to shut him down. Well, I'm still gonna get mine, and I'm not gonna stop. I'm always gonna give 110% like that. That's Anthony Edwards, man. I love that he doesn't take any plays off either, man. Like he's the right leader. You know what I mean? Like everyone galvanizes around him and stuff like that. And you could just tell like Minnesota plays how Anthony Edwards is just he's the driver of the bus, man. And they just follow his energy, man. That's Anthony Edwards, man. And he's a top 5 player in the game now. And
hey, bring your ass. All right. That's what he said last year. Bring it again to Minnesota this year. I agree, Nick. I think that Anthony Edwards is a top 5 player in the NBA. I think he's really proven that. Or like these playoffs, I think he's proven that. Obviously, if they'd beat the Warriors with Steph Curry, I think we talk about it more. I mean, the amount of like star level players he's already beaten in the playoffs, like it obviously barring like some catastrophic like collapse in the series, let's just assume that they win tomorrow. I mean, you beat the Warriors, you beat the Lakers, 2 teams that like everybody talks over you. Nobody's talking about Minnesota, right? Like you also mentioned, when we talked about this trade back last September, we were both confused. We were like, why would you guys make this trade? Because the Julius Randle that we saw, right, in New York was a guy that would play back to the basket, mid-range on literally on the baseline, backing people down. But in these playoffs, this guy driving the ball, shooting threes at a very high clip. I'll give you that. Yesterday in game four, I mean, dude, he couldn't miss. There was one where they actually had a good close. He literally just throws it up with like 1 second left and it goes in. I was like, okay, he's not missing. I think he had 19 in the first quarter. It was ridiculous. Like Julius Randle, if they make it to the, like, let's say they make it to the finals and they win the finals, right? We're going to be talking about this trade and was Cat the problem? Because this team is basically like Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle were the only upgrade, like the only changes that they made. Everybody else on this team was there last year. So
Yeah.
was Cat the problem? Like, did they just need to insert a different big into this team that could be a more consistent scorer for them? Get a guy like Dante DiVincenzo that can be a perimeter defender for you on top of Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards. And then you have Rudy Gobert on the inside, which I hate talking about Rudy Gobert in a positive way, but um, like, do we start talking about that? Is that going to be a conversation?
That's a that's a really good question, you know. And but here's the thing too, it's like the Knicks are not really having any issues either beside
Right.
with Anthony Towns. It seems like they've been better without Julius Randle. You know what I mean?
Oh
So
yeah, 100%.
it's just one of those trades where like it's just worked out for both parties. It's just worked out for both teams. And
Yeah.
typically, like the majority of trades that we see, eventually one team you could clearly say, "Oh yeah, that team definitely won the trade." There hasn't been that many trades as far as I can remember
Mhm.
that like it really worked out for both teams.
I think it would be the most interesting thing is if these two teams meet in the finals and
That'd
whichever team wins, right?
be
Like
hilarious.
we might, like that would be, I mean, the narrative would be insane because let's think about it. It would definitely get ratings up. People would be talking about it because it was a huge trade, especially in the NBA community. I feel like more people would talk about it. Big series, right? And Edwards trying to not be the face of the league, but really he slowly has become the face of the league in these playoffs.
Oh yeah.
So that's another thing. And then having Cat on the other side, who got traded from Minnesota, was in Minnesota all of his career, wasn't expecting to get traded, was thinking about running it back again with Minnesota. Like they were like, okay, we're gonna run it back.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's in New York, he makes the finals his first year in New York, while his old team also made the finals. I mean, bro, like that, like those are headlines that like I know Adam Silver would love to have if everything works out that way.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But I do want to talk just a little bit more about the series. Jimmy Butler, I think they really blew it yesterday because Jimmy Butler was way too passive.
Yeah.
Like you score 33 in game three, but you only go to 14 and you shoot 9 shots in game four, which is probably one of the biggest games of this series and probably your season too.
Yeah.
They said it was partly due to illness, I guess. I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like we make excuses for every player when they don't play well. So,
I agree, man. If you're on the floor, you're on the floor, man. I get everybody's going through injuries this time of year, man. You know
mhm.
what I mean? It's the playoffs, man. Especially the game is much more physical in the playoffs too. And the refs let them play a little bit more as well. So, and the majority of players, man, played at least 60 plus regular season games. So everybody's season when it comes to this far into the playoffs. So I hate that word illness. I think that's just a terrible excuse to be honest with you. Or like soreness or something like that. You know what I mean?
I just feel like we just kind of give these players an excuse for why they didn't give us the performance we were expecting. And it seems to be a commonality a lot of times, especially when the team loses. Like, come on, man. Like, just like admit that's one thing I'll give credit to Anthony Edwards. He he's a shit talker, but like
Yeah.
he also will kill you with kindness. Like he literally gives flowers to every other team and like compliments their players, but then also destroys those players. And then,
Yep.
but like he's not arrogant, but he knows how good he is. So I like it. I can't describe it, but it's like you don't see a lot of players like that. So I feel like Ann is like very special in that sense. Like he knows how to like play both sides with that, and it's really funny
Yeah.
because he is one of the best in the game. Let me ask you this, Nick. With everything that we've seen, we know one series is over. I'm going to give you the score of what's going on currently with OKC and Denver Denver's up by 4 in the second quarter with 9:48.
Okay.
Let's say again we keep our pick. We do you are you going to keep your pick? Do you think OKC is beating Denver?
Yes.
Okay, so we both agree Minnesota beats the Warriors probably tomorrow, right? So you got
Yep.
OKC and Minnesota. Who are you taking?
Wow, that's a really good question, man. That is a really good question. I
It's
mean,
hard.
Minnesota has been the most impressive team in my eyes, probably in the playoffs.
They got hot at the right time.
Them and Indiana are probably the top two, but I would say Minnesota just because they have been monsters defensively, man. Like Golden State has been having issues scoring on them. Granted, I understand Steph Curry's been out and stuff, but man, I think there's only been like 3, 4 games that Minnesota's given up 100 or more in the entire playoffs
Yeah,
so far. Like something
yeah.
like
I mean, and it was their first round matchup was against the Lakers, and the Lakers I think only scored 100 once in the
like
series.
once, right?
I think.
Crazy. Yeah.
I want to say. I mean, I don't have the scores up in front of me, but I know that the Warriors scored actually their highest in game 4, ironically, too. Like they were under 100 in the first 3 games,
Yeah.
99, 93, and 97. So it's playoff basketball, man. Sometimes these teams where it's like you don't expect them to come out of anywhere and then they make the conference finals because they just catch fire at the right time, chemistry, right? And it's also just matchup. Sometimes like if you just fall into the right matchups, like Minnesota obviously had a very easy round 1 because they played a team with no size
Yeah.
and then basically played again another team that doesn't really play their size. Like the Warriors have been forced to play size in this series. Like you
Yeah.
don't see small ball in this series because if they did, they would get destroyed.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree, man. And to answer your question, I know I didn't really give an answer,
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm
but
like,
I didn't give an answer. I know I did it, but I am. I know Minnesota would be the hot pick, but I'm gonna still stick with I'm gonna stick with Oklahoma.
you know, sit
I
with
think that
Oklahoma. Okay.
I'm gonna stick with Oklahoma. I get it that Minnesota's been the better team in the playoffs and stuff like
Mhm.
that, Um, hopefully, it's just one of those series that really wakes up Oklahoma if they somehow advance out of this. You know
I
what I mean?
mean,
We'll see what happens, but
I don't disagree with you, man. But what I'm gonna tell you right now is that I'm gonna go with the hot pick. I'm gonna go against you on this one because I'm curious. I could just say, oh, OKC, because we both, said OKC could make just based on like their first round. Like, there's like, okay, like maybe we should have picked this team. But I just think the way Minnesota's been playing, if they can continue that, I'm gonna put this on my pick.
yeah,
If Julius Randle could continue to be what he has been these playoffs in the conference finals, then I think Minnesota wins this series.
yeah,
But I think that's the only thing.
yeah. And what I'm gonna say, to be honest with you, with the teams that are remaining,
Mhm.
I'm telling you right now, my opinion now, I think either Oklahoma or the Timberwolves are gonna win the NBA championship this year.
I was just about to say the same thing.
I think one of those two teams are gonna win the championship this year.
Yeah. I just feel with the East, like I love Indiana, but I don't think they
Yeah,
can beat either of those teams. And they're a really
no,
good offensive team, but I just think that both of those teams present their own issues with the Pacers that I just don't think they're good enough to. And again, like we talked about them being underdogs and stuff, but I really think that because Boston is going to lose, I thought that was the one team that could really cause the West matchup problems. I don't see it with either the Knicks or the Pacers. I think they can be some fun series, but I think that either of those teams could win against
yeah,
them. So
100%.
I think we both agree there. Nick, it's been a lot of fun, man, just watching NBA hoops, obviously with the playoffs too. And we'll see what happens, man. I mean, these series aren't over. We can't crown anybody the winner of this round except for the Pacers. So we'll see what happens. And if you guys have, please like, comment, and subscribe if you've watched all the way to the end of the video. We thank you for your continued support and continued watching of these videos. Nick and I, we try to do our best to come on as often as we can. Sometimes it's just really tough just because life gets busy and we want to talk about basketball, but it's just not possible sometimes. So we really do appreciate it when you guys listen. Um, Nick, any last things that you want to add before we sign off for tonight?
Nothing, to be honest, man. Obviously, we're just looking forward as basketball fans to continue to watch the rest of the playoffs because it's kind of actually been kind of like a March Madness kind of tournament, man, which we really don't see that from NBA
No,
playoffs, especially
we
like in
never
our
do.
life really so much. So we've been seeing a bunch of upsets and stuff like that, which that's what we'd love to see that. So we love the unpredictability. So
All
hopefully,
facts.
yeah. So hopefully it's still is a really good, playoff, and hopefully the matchups moving forward are going to be really, really good series, and
Yeah,
hopefully there's no blowouts and no sweeps or anything like that. The more basketball we'll be able to watch, the better, I feel like. So, I'm definitely excited moving forward for the playoffs.
100%, bro. Couldn't agree more. I'm ready to talk about the conference finals with you, man. Let's hope that these series end up being really good for that because I definitely don't want to see any sweeps. I just want to see some competitive basketball where we can talk about a long series and then we'll get ready for the finals. So I'm going to say right now, whenever they call the MVP, it's going to be SGA. We're just waiting for that word to be said.
My
So
guy right there.
so yeah. So again, thank you guys for listening till the end of the episode. We really appreciate it. For Nick and for myself, this has been All Ball No Foul. You guys have a great night. Enjoy the rest of the second round, and we will see you soon to talk about the conference finals.